Which country are you supporting for the World Cup? But hold that thought, because wherever your answer is, someone spent billions of dollars to make this tournament possible. And how that money moves is actually one of the most interesting financial stories that you haven't heard before. So let's start with the promise. FIFA and the World Trade Organization published a joint study before this tournament. Their projection was that hosting the 2026 World Cup will generate more than $40 billion worth of economic output across the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Jobs, investments, constructions, tourism, $40 billion flowing through 3 host countries. That sounds like the most straightforward decision in sport. Of course you host. The financial case is overwhelming, but Goldman Sachs disagrees. Their economists study every World Cup since 1982, 40 years of data, every host country, and every economic outcome. Their conclusion was simple. The impact on host countries is nearly zero. For the United States specifically, the projected boost from hosting the World Cup amounts to less than 0.1% of GDP. Goldman Sachs called this marginal. So which is it? And if the economic gains are near zero, where does the money actually go? That question is what this video is about. So let's follow the money. To understand who gets paid, you first need to understand what hosting costs. Let's start with Qatar in 2022, the most extreme case in World Cup history, and the one that makes the economics of hosting the clearest. Qatar spent an estimated $220 billion in the 2022 World Cup. For context, Qatar's entire annual government budget in 2022 was $58 billion, 4 times the government's annual budget for 1 month of football. Qatar had to build everything from scratch. In 2010, when it won the bid, it had no stadiums capable of hosting a World Cup, no metro systems, and summer temperatures so hot that playing football outdoors without industrial cooling was extremely dangerous. And due to this, 8 brand new stadiums with embedded cooling was built. A new city called Lusail that didn't even exist when Qatar won the bid was suddenly created, and a full metro network with upgraded airports and highways. Tens of thousands of new hotel rooms. The $220 billion covers all of it. These were infrastructure that Qatar would have needed anyway, but they were forced to happen in 12 years with a fixed deadline. Urgency is always expensive. Qatar was exceptional, but the pattern holds everywhere. Brazil spent around $15 billion to host the World Cup in 2014. Russia spent around $14 billion in 2018. And in every case, the spending doesn't stop at the final whistle. Every stadium still exists. Every day it stands, it costs money to run. So the money goes out. But where does it come back in? Well, here is what a host country doesn't receive. FIFA sells broadcasting rights to TV networks across the world. For 2026, it was $3.9 billion. That money goes into FIFA's headquarters in Zurich, Switzerland. But the host countries receive none of it. FIFA sponsorship deals such as Adidas, Coca-Cola, and Visa bring in $1.8 billion. Also to Zurich. Ticketing and hospitality, $3 billion, managed through FIFA's commercial structures. What the host country genuinely captures is the physical tourist spending. Hotel nights, restaurant meals, local transportation, the roughly 5 million people who physically attend these matches. That spending is real. and it goes into the local economy. But there's a catch. During any major tournament, a large portion of regular tourists chooses to stay away. Hotels are expensive and full, flights cost more, and cities feel overcrowded. So many visitors who would usually visit that summer picks somewhere else instead. Economists call this the substitution effect. The gain from World Cup visitors is partially offset by the regular visitors who avoided the chaos. The net benefit is substantially smaller than the raw arrival figures suggested. So if we put everything together, the host country misses out on broadcasting, sponsorships, and most ticketing revenue, which all flow to Zurich. It captures the tourist spending minus the substitution effect, and it carries the entire infrastructure bill. So if the host countries aren't collecting these big money, who is it? It's FIFA. FIFA collected $8.9 billion from this one tournament. FIFA is the organization that controls world football, registered as the non-profit association in Zurich. It basically pays no tax on the World Cup revenue. But here's the thing, non-profit is a term that mostly confuses people. It doesn't mean that the organization doesn't make any money. It means that the organization isn't structured to pay dividends to its shareholders. The money still flows to staff, to executives, to 211 national football associations that FIFA runs, and to development programs worldwide. It just doesn't go to investors. And that brings us to the part where people are mostly surprised. Out of $8.9 billion, how much do you think actually reaches to the 48 national teams playing the World Cup? $871 million. This is basically under 10 cents of every FIFA dollar. The remaining 90 cents stays with FIFA. The prize ladder breaks down like this. Every team that qualifies, even those that loses all the group stage matches, gets $9 million in prize money plus $1.5 million in preparation cost. So the guaranteed flow is $10.5 million per team. A round of 16 exit pays $15 million. Quarterfinal, $19 million. Third place, $29 million. Runner-up, $33 million. And the winner gets $50 million. But here's the part that most fans never consider, including about the country that you're supporting right now. The prize money doesn't go directly to the players. It goes to the National Football Federation. The federation then decides what shares, if any, the players receive. Some countries have structured transparent bonus agreements. Others have historically kept the majority for organizational use, with players seeing very little beyond their existing club salary. There is no global standard. The cut players receive essentially varies depending on the country. But there's one more layer to this. The host country isn't just missing the commercial revenue, it's also living with the physical infrastructure it built for decades after the tournament ends. Brazil built or renovated 12 stadiums in 2014. The Arena Pantanal in Cuiabá became a city bus depot after the World Cup. South Africa built or upgraded 10 stadiums in 2010. Several have never turned consistent profits. The Moses Mabhida Stadium in Durban cost over $250 million to construct and has hosted a fraction of the total events initially projected. Economists call these white elephants, an expensive asset that costs more to maintain than the value it generates. Maintaining a large stadium, security, pitch care, cleaning, structural inspections, utilities, cost millions of dollars per year, whether or not anything is happening inside. That cost doesn't appear in pre-bid projections. It appears years later, quietly, in annual maintenance budgets. So here is the full paradox. The economics are consistently poor for host countries. Billions out the door up front, commercial revenue flowing to Zurich, tourist gains partially offset by the substitution effect, and stadiums draining budgets for decades. And yet, countries spend years competing fiercely for this exact privilege. Why? Well, because the decision was never about economics. Qatar wanted to be known. Before 2010, people couldn't point out where Qatar was on the map. After the World Cup, it became a global household name. 5 billion people watched it on screen, international business conversations opened, and foreign investment inquiries multiplied. That global visibility is impossible to buy by any other means. The World Cup forced investments that has been delaying for years, if not decades. Goldman Sachs acknowledges this dimension directly. Citizens and governments often have genuine willingness to pay for this national pride and the collective identity of hosting, even when direct financial returns are limited. That value is real. It just doesn't show up in GDP. GDP, also known as gross domestic product, is how economists measure total economic output. It tracks goods produced, services delivered, and construction completed. It doesn't measure national pride, international prestige, or the feeling of seeing your country compete in the world stage. Those things are real. They're just invisible in the metric. And there's always a political calculation underneath it all. The leader who hosts a World Cup looks like a winner domestically. That matters regardless of what the fiscal spreadsheet says. Which brings us back to the 2026 World Cup. 2026 has a structurally different starting point. The US, Canada, and Mexico are large developed countries with deep existing sports infrastructure. Crucially, most of the stadiums were already built. MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, which will host the World Cup final, opened in 2010. AT&T Stadium in Dallas, SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, all pre-existing, all in regular commercial use for NFL seasons, concerts, and major events all year round. The white elephant risk is significantly smaller. These venues have permanent economic lives regardless of the World Cup. The commercial winner is FIFA, hosting in North America, which is the largest advertising market, makes this the most commercially valuable tournament in the sport's history. So, here is the full picture. FIFA collects $8.9 billion from this one tournament. Broadcasting, sponsorship, ticketing, all flowing to Zurich. The host countries carry the infrastructure bill. They capture tourist spending minus the substitution effect. And the stadiums remain, some finding their purposes, others quietly draining maintenance budgets for decades. The football is extraordinary, and the collective value that 5 billion people are deriving from this moment, watching their teams, feeling that national pride. Goldman Sachs acknowledges that this is real. It just doesn't appear in GDP. But just one last thing, which country are you supporting in the World Cup? Drop yours in the comments and let's see who's watching. If this was interesting to you, like and subscribe to my channel. Every week I break down what's actually happened in finance and economics. No jargon, just the story. I'll see you next week.